This episode of Hack Circus is supported by Squarespace, the all-in-one platform that makes it fast and simple to build your own professional website and online shop. For a free trial and 10% off, visit squarespace.com and enter the offer code CIRCUS at checkout. A better web starts with your website. Welcome to episode 6 of Hack Circus, the podcast. Hack Circus is also a quarterly event series and magazine. Go to hackcircus.com for more information. In this episode, I talked to LJ Rich. You may know her as the presenter of BBC Click. She's also a hacker, a music technologist, and a composer. She has perfect pitch, and she also has synesthesia, which is a fascinating mixing of the senses that means she experiences the world in a really unusual way. She's actually played along to our conversation at about 8 minutes into this podcast, so listen out for that in the background. I really enjoyed talking to LJ. We talked for about 3 hours, and this is just the highlights of an incredibly interesting and engaging chat that we had. So I really hope you enjoy it as much as I did. Yeah, I feel like we've not recorded loads of really interesting stuff.
Oh,
It feels a shame in a way.
The two of us will just chat about everything, I expect. It's one of those wonderful where you meet people that inspire you to think differently. And I feel like that when I met you the first time, actually.
Oh, that's very kind. Yeah, I mean, we should probably do a soft intro. We're sitting outside in London with LJ Rich. I don't know, how would you describe yourself, actually?
I've recently taken to describing myself as a music hacker. I think is a really good job description for me because I'm occupying this strange hybrid world of this technology obsessed but classically trained. And at what point do you start delineating and making sense? Well, why should I make sense of it? Why don't I just do music hacking and that's the end of it? So I do spontaneous classical composition with the help of technology at the moment, and I'm very much enjoying it.
Well, hopefully we'll get some live demos of that coming up. Yeah, we're both sort of sitting in a public place here, and it's a little bit self-conscious, not too much, but with LJ just looks like this fantastically glamorous rock chick who's sat next to me with some pink streaks in her hair and a leather jacket on, and I'm sort of wearing a summer dress, and I don't know, it all feels a bit exposed, but I'm sure it'll be fine.
I'm used to making a spectacle of myself.
Yeah, that's true. Actually, yeah, you are. I mean, you're a showman. you're on TV. You must be used to people staring and things when you're sitting out. This isn't really a big deal for you.
Do you know, I'm spectacularly unobservant.
Right.
So I very rarely notice when people are staring at me. I'm normally quite happy if I can walk a certain length of a street without falling over something. So vision for me is one of my less reliable senses. So
you were saying you're not proficient at recognising faces sometimes. You struggle with that. You're more of an audio kind
very much so. It has led to some amusing incidences. One of the weirdest was I was completely by coincidence chatting to this gentleman for a little while, and about 20 minutes we talked about flying and jet lag and his kids. It turned out to be Michael Douglas, who's actually quite recognisable. The theory is that facial recognition is a different part of the brain, and that in some chess players they found that they store chess positions in the area of the brain reserved for facial recognition. So there's a theory that maybe that my huge memory for every song that I've ever heard or every musical kind of thing that I've absorbed resides there in this giant room of filing cabinets, each with little stems of music in, and maybe that's what I have instead of faces. Just come back from Japan, and one of the things I adored about the place was that virtually every sound there is an expected sound. Unexpected sounds do startle me somewhat, and everything there seemed to have its own place. I gave a talk at TEDx Tokyo last month about music, technology and synesthesia, which is this mixing of the senses.
Such a loud spot right on the road. Yeah,
it looks really quiet, and then as soon as you press record, this is the curse of any creative person trying to make content in a public place. Pressing the record button is almost like this spell casting that allows for the loudest things in the world to pass. Soon it will be a steam train, marching band. a tank, river dance, just like Notting Hill Carnival.
And I'm just intrigued. What notes are these taxis driving in? Because
well, it's kind of like B and B flat
Yeah.
here, and then you kind of have people talking in F over there. It's actually quite tuneful on this corner, despite the loud and normally it's really quiet along here. So clearly, if you stop recording, it would go quiet again. But that creates a bit of a problem for people listening.
What's the most common note for people to speak in?
I love your questions.
I'm just thinking because we've had two. Like, there have been two conversations that you've commented on them. I think you said they were both speaking in F.
In my experience, and I must add, this is completely empirical. Okay. But in my experience, people who speak in common keys with other people have similar personality traits. So if I meet people who speak in F, they tend to be quite upbeat and motivated and generally interested in the world around them. People who speak in A flat are quite serene and also very kind of, what's the word? Take joy in the sort of finer things in life, good food. When somebody goes, a lot of the time that's on the similar notes. I've met some people who, to me, speak in B minor, and those are possibly the only people that I take an instant kind of, not dislike, that's a bit of a strong word, but I'm on my guard. It's the sort of people who kind of me, and it almost, I have to fight against that. In the same way that maybe some people have preconceptions built on someone's appearance, for me that's not the case. It's more what they sound like. And the more I listen to someone, the more I kind of want to hear more about them. From the way somebody chooses how they speak, whether it's a conscious or not so conscious thing. For me, it's such an authentic exchange when someone speaks, and to me it's a very musical thing. Maybe to others they hear the words. I hear the words not necessarily second, but it's perhaps as important, the tune that someone sings when they speak.
Fascinating, isn't it?
It's such a good question. Do I modify my voice? Well, now I'm really conscious of it. It's a bit like that thing on the internet where they go, "You are now breathing manually." It's like, thanks. I don't think I can speak anymore. Whenever you meet anyone who has read the blog post that you wrote about your I was going to say your condition, your abilities. It's got both.
But I think after reading that, a lot of people who are probably going to see you relatively soon afterwards have been thinking about their voice a lot and thinking, like, next time I see LJ, she's going to be like listening to me properly in a special way. I'm going to have to somehow speak differently as a result.
Well, if I can reassure anyone that speaks to me in real life coming up, hello.
They'll be like, what if I speak in a B flat way?
If it's any consolation at all, it's not something that's at the top of my mind. It's a bit like when you speak to somebody, you might not notice things about them unless you focus on it.
Yeah.
And it's a similar thing for me. It's for everybody. Everyone has impressions of people when they interact and speak to them. It just so happens that mine are somewhat richer in some ways because of the synesthesia, which is that mixing of the senses we talked about. And because of my sound perception, so the guy sitting behind you talking, it's quite weird actually, because he's kind of in sort of B and E flat.
He's
sort
rocking a bit, yeah. I feel like I want to put the microphone under him now, but you alluded to your synesthesia. We haven't really explained what that is. When we first met up just now, I gave you a copy of the magazine and you sort of stroked it because it's quite tactile, and then you said, "Oh, this is triggering my synesthesia," and then you said which notes it was. I think you said which notes it was. That right?
E flat, and then the smooth bit. It's basically these lovely ridges of black on this white background, and I guess One of my more amusing connections in my mind is when I eat something, it's musical. So there's a Malaysian restaurant that's got some really amazing chords, and I ate in a Persian restaurant, and one aubergine dish was in C sharp minor, and another aubergine dish was in E major, and I kept eating each like in alternately because they were relative minor to major in musical terms. They're quite sort of strangely related, and thank goodness I was eating with somebody who's used to me. And it's a bit like if you see a dog and you think the word dog, I would imagine.
Yeah.
How would you explain how that word comes to you when you see a dog?
Sure. Yeah.
It's almost the same as how I can compose spontaneously. How on earth? Sometimes I'll compose something and I'll be listening as I'm writing almost and think, this is beautiful. Where am I even getting this from? It's a very odd, with scientific outlook, how is this happening type. It's a struggle to explain it, but it's also so simple at the same time. Of course that's a dog, it's barking, you know. Of course this front cover is in B flat today, you know. And then this blue and green stripe that's all smooth is kind of in F to G. It's like this lovely 5th to 6th. It's a really pleasurable ASMR type experience, you know. So that's the best I can do.
That's amazing. So have you always felt that you had this? I mean, when did you realise that it was unusual?
For me, it was more unusual that other people didn't see the world, hear the world, experience.
Was it very disappointing for you? Did you feel like, or did you feel sorry for people? Do you now feel sorry for people?
Not at all.
Oh, you should. I feel like I'm missing out.
Someone told me that it must be like, you know, tripping. I guess for me, if I eat a particularly wonderful piece of food, I really enjoy it, gloriously so. But then the flip side of that is that I can be a fussy eater. If I don't like the taste of something, I can't bring myself to eat it. Baked beans, what's with those? Why? Mayonnaise, what on earth? What would possess somebody to ruin a perfectly good meal by covering it in mayonnaise?
Is it the texture or the taste or the sound of it? Right, it's dissonance. Interesting.
It even smells out of key. I don't think I could describe it any better than that.
Have you ever spoken to someone whose voice is out of key? I'm wondering now if my voice is out of key. Obviously,
it's very rare that happens. So when I was very young, one of my music tutors said, you're going to struggle with the world if you see it only in diatonic or chromatic, so notes on a piano way.
Right.
Here's some serial music from the 1950s. Here's some music where you've got quarter tones and eighth tones instead of just semitones. Here's some music from Javanese gamelan music, where you've got thirds that are fatter than normal thirds. And I got played a whole wodge of music. Steve Reich, different trains. John Cage, really interesting takes on what is construed as musical. With that, I could go out into the world and see it for what it was, as richly musical tapestry of wonderfully sensual textures of auditory delights just waiting to be listened to, as opposed to this harsh noise curtain beyond which you could never escape. And so that was a real turning point. Actually, I can tell you one seminal point was when I was in Boston. I was staying in the Hacker House with everybody. I was at this event called Music Tech Fest, where I made some very good friends, and they had some Manuka honey, and I ate some, and it was in B flat major 6th, and most honey is in B flat major, and I kind of hadn't had very much sleep at that point, and I let slip, because normally I would keep this to myself, and I did for many years, because if you explain to someone that honey is in B flat major 6th, it makes you sound pretty odd, but I felt reasonably safe and secure in that environment with other musicians who were kind of accepting of slightly eccentric takes on the world. And I kind of idly said that this was in B flat major 6th, and they looked at me and said, what? And I kind of explained, because to me it made sense. Normally honey is in B flat major, and there's this pause, and I went, okay, what do you mean by that? And I kind of explained, and the next day I was playing donuts to people, and
I can imagine. Yeah, I can just imagine this becomes like a party trick almost. People do go, play me, play this, play that. I like the thing of the honey thing, because it makes me think that you're not just an extreme musician, if you see what I mean. It's not something that all musicians kind of get. Have you met any other audio synesthesiacs?
Rather wonderfully, I got added to a synesthesia list that's run by a chap who keeps track of synesthetes around the world.
Oh, wow.
And I've went for dinner with him he was in the country for a few days. So we met up at this Malaysian place, and he has food to colour synesthesia. So we were eating things, and I was telling him what key things were in, and he was telling me what colour things were, and it's a wonderful experience. I've met a few people who have different forms of synesthesia. There is some documentation of other musicians who have colour sound synesthesia. Some famous ones, Messiaen, Liszt, very notably so. It's rare that musicians agree on what colour things are. So for me, A flat major is a purple colour. If you add an F sharp to it, it kind of becomes purpley blue. But for another musician, that might be slightly different. I know that my kind of music colour associations are different from those that have been documented by sort of other composers. When I'm composing, I see colour behind a sort of my version of a graphical musical stave. As I've been talking about this more, it's become slightly easier to describe, but it still sounds pretty strange. But I love meeting people who experience the world in different ways. So even when we've been talking, the questions you've been asking and the way that your brain works is fabulously different to pretty much anyone else that I've ever spoken to. It's wonderfully inspiring.
It might just be that I'm socially awkward and can't really phrase what I want to say properly, possibly. But it's very kind of you to say that. This episode of Hack Circus is supported by Squarespace, the all-in-one platform that makes it fast and simple to build your own professional website and online shop. The easy-to-use drag-and-drop tools, responsive designs and 24/7 customer support teams based in New York and Dublin mean you can create a beautifully designed website for as little as £5 a month. This includes a free domain name when you sign up for a year. When you decide to sign up for Squarespace, make sure you use the offer code CIRCUS to get 10% off and to show your support for Hack Circus. No credit card required. Start building your website today.
Right, now, we've all got headphones on, and what you're going to record on your Zoom is just the bare audio.
Right, yeah.
But what I'm going to record is what we're going to do.
Yeah.
And what you should be able to do is integrate the two. So I'm going to give you a click point so that you know here that you can sync this up.
Yeah,
okay?
I see.
So let's do this. So it's going to feel a bit weird. Okay?
Okay, I'm braced.
Brace. Okay. Now.
I can hear things, that's good. Oh. Yes, everything's echoey and repeating.
Okay.
Bass has kicked in. That's amazing. Already it's like an actual piece of, I don't know, house music from the 90s. Can you hear the same I can?
So.
So strange. We're kind of brilliant.
It is.
I hope this makes sense to the album.
So, the world around us now has a soundtrack.
This is brilliant though. You could market this.
I'm going to build an app with some friends. Make everyone able to experience. What people find, they speak more slowly, experience the world more deeply. And what you can do with outside sound is show how musical it is. La la la. That's what they just did. So what you can also do
shoes?
Yes.
Or yours, maybe?
Auditory-minded people enjoy this. I'll just stop for a second.
Yeah. That's brilliant.
Hello there. My friend has a visitor's pass already. Look.
So come on.
I can vouch for that.
Right.
We are now in the beating heart of the newsroom. I'm just going to say, come past this barrier.
Oh my God, I feel like Annika Rice. That ages me. Oh my God.
This
Wow.
is the newsroom.
This is fantastic.
What I'm
We're,
gonna-
we're looking down into a massive monitors and sort of intense people with headphones on.
Have you been here before?
I have. I came here to see Helen Keene's rocket science show being recorded a couple of months ago, but I haven't seen it from this angle.
And if you look directly underneath us is where they broadcast the actual factual news. I sat in that studio. I did a little turn on the news channel. Now, so here's something that frustrates me. We're at the lifts. If you press the lift that goes down, it makes one note, ma, right? But if you press the lift that goes up, it goes, mang, mang. But really, if it's going down, it should go, mang, mang, because it's,
Yeah.
but it doesn't.
Confusing.
Yeah. This one just goes. Also, the elevator press buttons are slightly out of key with each other.
Oh, that must be frustrating.
Is this the one? See, that one's going up, but it shouldn't go. Bing, bing.
Very I see what you mean. I get annoyed about that.
This is moving around the newsroom, showing you where you're in shot, but very BBC. These are the parts where you can have tea.
It says T point in massive letters over the whole of the
It's
map.
as important
This is all you need to know.
as the TV studio and the TV galleries. Tea point.
Brilliant.
And anyway, I then uttered the words when I was out in the street. Of course, everything's in Japanese. How do you get back home when all the trains have gone? So I went, ooh, I hope sober me took a photograph of the address because drunk me doesn't know how to get home. And I went, wow, clever sober me did take a picture. Let's hope drunk me can communicate this to the taxi driver. So in answer to your question about sending messages to future self,
Yeah.
I'm reasonably happy with temporal disruption. I have to look at myself in an edit suite, a past version of myself. It's an odd but normalised experience that you will have when you edit stuff. It's almost like when you listen to your voice, do you hear yourself talking or do you hear a person who sounds like you saying words?
I know, it's interesting, isn't it? There is a kind of duplicity. You are aware that it's... But in a way, when you're doing interviews and presenting and talks and things like this, you are a character. You're not being yourself naturally. You're not having a natural chat. Some people it's more natural than others, but there's always a sense that you have to keep it on message. You have to speak in a certain way, and you can't just kind of say whatever you like and erupt, like I just did. But
I get the impression, though, that you're talking incredibly naturally with me, and I'm responding, feel very relaxed chatting
good.
to you.
Yeah, I think I am, but I think when I listen back, I'll be aware that I was slightly in an interview mode, like aware that I was recording, I suppose, and I'll remember that awareness, and it'll sound like that. And I think having done we did like 80 shift run stops or something, like having done so many hours of stuff and listened to all of them several times usually, you do just get used to it, and you know that you don't hear your voice actually, you hear what you're saying, I think. And it's got to that point now where I was talking to my friend, actually, Helen Zaltzman. She does a podcast called Answer Me This. I was talking to her about podcasting and recording, and she said, in fact, it was on this show, we did an episode, the first episode, and she said, whenever people start doing podcasts, the two things they have to get over are, why do I sound so weird and bad? And why am I saying such stupid things? And I think you do just get over it, and you just go, well, this is just me. And you just, and you were saying to me before we turned the microphone on, do you feel like you're getting weirder as you get older, or more kind of open about the weirdness, I suppose? And I think you do. You get used to yourself, and you just kind of, is that sort of cliche to say you get more confident in yourself? But I think you just realise that it's so much effort to fight it. It's so hard not to be so hard to be anyone else. And to pretend to be excited about things you're not excited about, and to kind of exaggerate things, it's like, well, why bother? There are things that you're just interested in and just excited about and just naturally good at, and all that stuff falls into place, I think, after a while. And yeah, you do accept and sort of increasingly becoming forced to accept that some of the stuff that you like and you're interested in and good at are not conventional or mainstream, and people just will never get it. But yeah, you find people who do get it, and it's rewarding in that way.
I think for many a year, I almost fought against that very musical side of me, because it's incredibly hard to make your way in the music industry. Certainly if you don't quite fit the image that people want to market, for example. And being a classical composer at heart, it's not exactly something that's...
That's great. LJ's dancing to this. It's quite, just getting down with that ringtone.
I quite like that ringtone.
It's quite sweet, wasn't it?
Yeah. It's the 4 chords that you can sing everything to. Knocking on Heaven's Door, pretty much everything by, what's his name, Jack Jones? There's a whole load of songs that fits.
Okay.
I'm happy. Yes. So that's a perfect example, actually, of being distracted by a sound instead of working.
I think your job is particularly difficult in that you have to be such a good people person. Really, you have to be a bit of a geek, but you have to have this skill of how to talk to people. And I feel like I'm talking to a professional socializer, a professional, somebody who's good at this, actually. Like, you know what it's like, you interview people who aren't very good at talking or aren't used to being recorded, and I wonder if there's an element of like you were saying, you've been doing this for a few years, and I think you get better at sort of relating to people. And
for me, I have always believed that you can learn something from every single person you meet. Far be it from me to judge whether something is interesting or not. By the very nature of being different from me, the person that I speak with is going to have a point of view and have something to say that could change how I view the world. Part of my job, I guess, is giving people permission to be themselves and encouraging them to feel safe about speaking on camera, which is by its nature a very alien thing to do. I'm kind of okay with talking on camera because I've probably broadcast over 1,700 hours of live telly in my life, probably more. My background in shopping TV and being on live TV almost the whole time. It's it's an amazing grounding for being confident on screen. And I recognise that for a lot of people it's an overwhelming thing. People will go, oh, the BBC are coming, they'll tidy up their office. And I'll get there and I'll think, oh, it's a shame you've tidied up. I like a messy desk, or, unless you're tidy naturally. It's almost like this strange thing that by shining a light on, it's like this quantum thing where by observing something you change it on a macro scale by bringing a camera into an office. So part of the quest I have is to get a natural response. And I would describe myself as generally interested in people. I am also socially awkward in my own way. When I meet people or say hello and goodbye, I don't know whether to hug, shake hands, bow, kiss, one cheek, two cheeks. It's just so confusing. Why isn't there some convention in place? And or you shake hands with someone and they pull you in for a kiss on the cheek, and you're like, oh no, hang on, what? And then I'll get confused, and then I'll end up kissing their ear, or it's just this strange. It's a bit like when a modem fails to connect properly, and then you're both looking at each other, thinking there's a parity error. What's happening?
It's very difficult to be very enthusiastic about something in a self-conscious way, because if you're genuinely enthusiastic, it'll just come across, and you won't really be able to hide that. And I love that. That's what I love about geeks. Like, when you meet someone, say geeks, and it's sort of it sounds very patronising, but I think, in many ways, I count myself as one of these people. If I'm talking about something that I think is really important and interesting, then it's impossible for me to disguise that.
But enthusiasm is something that forgives so many sins, and what do they say? If you can fake sincerity, you're onto a winner. I think it's rare that I'll interview somebody and put them on air if they don't sound like they mean what they say.
One of the reasons that I think our paths crossed in the first place is because my initials are LJ, and I was signed on Chiffon Stop Tweets LJ. And it is odd signing, for example, if I quite often sign my emails LJ, and then it's odd like looking at an email from LJ signed LJ, and then I'll like write one back and sign it LJ, and it's like, no, this is too weird. We have to. One of us. There's only room in this email for one LJ. It has to die.
It's like Highlander, but weirder. Why does one of us have to die in a quantum universe? Surely we can exist at the same time as long as we don't look at each other.
Oh yeah, that would
collapse the waveforms.
Yes. Paradox and destroy the universe. Okay. So LJ, I should thank you for. I've stolen you all afternoon and prevented you from editing the next episode of BBC Click, possibly.
I've willingly been stolen. Very willingly. It's been a pleasure.
Well, it's been lovely to chat to you. I don't know. Do you have any work coming up that we should check out? Or is your app available to buy, the app that we sampled earlier?
I'm working on that at the moment, but there's a whole ton of free music to listen to on my SoundCloud account. That's soundcloud.com/LJRich. And of course, I'm on Twitter, as everybody else is, LJRich. And I'm really interested in doing more music technology things. That's the love of my life. So get in touch with me if you want to do music-y things and technology, especially things that involve live composing and performance.